Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have no slides as such. I will give you an orientation in about 2 minutes, and then I'll show you a video film which will keep you totally engrossed. We have been talking about myths, the word which was used in the last session. Basically, it is a repetition of disinformation or misinformation, which is a kind of a perception which people carry. And you carry it for so long that it becomes the truth. But basically, whatever has been discussed in the morning, I would like to give some factual data for you to study. We are relying our entire data on World Bank, FAO, Indian statistics, industry feedback, and from the data that we have been able to generate through RTIs. First of all, you must know that the agrochemical industry today is close to about 65,000 crores, out of which about almost 40,000 crores is exports. We've talked about the countries where it's being exported, and we personally feel the domestic market is slightly lower than the export market. The growth in terms of CAGR has been between 8 to 14%, which is something very creditable. In spite of COVID and whatever, we had this growth in the last 3-4 years. The second point about quality. Again, a misconception that our quality is not acceptable. Quality by Indian companies or by multinationals is totally acceptable. We are exporting to about 130 countries, and all these countries are accepting our material without any questions asked. There have been no rejections. There have been no rejections in the past, and we personally feel that we can match globally in terms of specification and in terms of perception. We were talking about new molecules, something which has been kind of a bugging point in the minds of a lot of people. Globally, let me tell you, 70% are generics. Are old tried molecules which have been used. India also in the same category. If you take the global figures, it will be close to about 65 or 70%, meaning thereby that the farmer and the users at large have been happy with these molecules. They've been cost effective, they've been efficient, they've been efficacious, they've been taking care of all complex crops like cotton, paddy, soybean, vegetables, etc., etc. So new molecules are welcome, but then at what cost? That's to be considered. Other thing is about the production. India was at number 4 position. In the last 2-3 years, in spite of COVID, we have overtaken USA and we have also taken the EU Union. Meaning thereby that after China, we are number 2 in global production in terms of agriculture production, followed by EU and then USA, which is a great matter of pride that we have been able to feed the country. So many people in the last 3-4 years, in spite of COVID, they have been taken care of in terms of hunger, and there has not been a single death due to hunger in this country. In terms of usage, data which is collected from FAO and World Bank, we are using almost 61,000 tons of technical, to be precise, 61,702 tons of technical in a global market of about 26 lakhs of 2.66 lakhs. So we feel that the market is just about 2%, which is very low. There's a scope for using more. And if you even go category-wise, which is again meeting the global standards, in India we use about 51% insecticides, which has come down slightly because of usage of lesser use on cotton. It is followed by 32% on fungicides, which is basically for fungal diseases and also for storage. And the third category is herbicides, which is about 16%. This totally matches with the global trend of highest in insecticides, then fungicides, and then herbicides. In terms of usage of pesticides, somebody talked in the morning that we are 4th or we are 9th or 12th. The actual figure is we are 9th in terms of consumption of pesticides in the country. And all other countries, Argentina, Brazil, China, USA, are way ahead of us, including the entire EU and with 27 countries out there. And it gives me a great matter of pride that we are using almost about 400 grams per hectare, which is a very optimum limit to be used. And the reason being very simple. We are tying up with government and the universities to recommend as per the package of practices. We are also ensuring that they do not use something which is beyond the recommended dose for a particular pest complex, and this is something which has been working very well with the Indian farmer. Another misconception that is being talked of, which I'll again be showing in my film, is about not meeting specifications. I'm only going to quote Mr. Tomar in the parliament saying that only about 1.71% are the number of samples which are not meeting specifications. It is totally a misnomer to say that India makes something which is substandard. No, it is only 1.71% which are not meeting specification. And tell you again, if you do a second trial with the same sample, maybe the results will improve further. The same misnomer is about MRL. It's been talked in the morning also. Everyone talks about residues. I think the concept of MRL is basically for eating raw food or whatever. We have had trials in the last 8 years in Pusa Institute. We have data to share. that in cereals, vegetables, fruits and milk, India is one of the safest countries. We have just about 2% or less than 2%, which is found to be not meeting MRN. So 98% of the stuff which you eat raw, you wash it and you eat it and you drink it, is absolutely safe for human consumption. Another area which has been on and not through yet is about the PLI scheme. Agrochemicals is now declared a champion sector. It's a sector which is growing, as I told you earlier, with a very fast pace. But then the perception is a little different. They'll compare with pharma, they'll compare with dyes and chemicals, they'll compare with drones, and yet we are not being covered under PLI scheme. I can assure you that we're looking for investment of almost about 12,000 crores in the next 3 years in terms of fresh investment in case we are covered under PLI scheme. A word about CCFI, which I've said earlier. CCFI is an Indian organization of 50 Indian companies, 50 large Indian companies who have their own manufacturing units in India. I'm repeating it. They have their own manufacturing units in India, all over the country, and they are the ones who are bound by the slogan of Atmanirbhar Bharat and to make in India. So these are some things which I thought since morning has been discussed. Let me factually correct till now. Thereafter, of course, you can have questions on this. But to conclude, I would say that we should forget our prejudices. Whether it's Indian companies, MNCs, whatever, small scale, MSMEs, we should forget our prejudices and look for something which we can do for the Indian farmer. The myths that I'm going to talk about now will be a small 9-minute film which covers all the points which I have not covered now, and I'd like you to show the film, please. Can you put off the lights, please?
Propaganda, an organized spreading of often false ideas to promote a particular agenda or point of view. The goal is to shape people's opinion for political or economic reasons. While most Indians would have come across this scaremongering in media and elsewhere, how many of us do know that India today ranks number 2 in the world in terms of agriculture production? How many of us know that India today is the world's top producer of numerous agricultural commodities like cereals, pulses, spices, fruits, milk, tea, cotton, and many more? Myth 1. Indian farmers use excessive pesticides. Even though India ranks second in the world in agriculture production after China, it ranks 12th in pesticide use. Most other countries like USA, France, Spain, Italy, Germany use far more agrochemicals than India on per unit area and per unit of output basis. In fact, India's crop protection chemicals consumption is one of the lowest in the world. Myth 2. Agri-commodities in India carry high pesticide residues. The All India Network Project on Pesticide Residues is a state-of-the-art government agency that routinely checks samples of all types of agri-commodities from across the country for pesticide residues. Its annual studies over the last 14 years found that on an average, 98% of Indian agri-commodities have MRL values within the prescribed limits. Indian findings are in line or in fact better than most developed nations like USA and UK. Myth 3. Pesticide use has led to high cancer cases in India. Globally, India ranks 172 in cancer rates. Countries like USA, Australia and Denmark have far higher cancer rates. Singapore, with nil area under agriculture, has a cancer rate that is more than double of India. In fact, the World Health Organization's Group 1 list of 120 substances considered to be carcinogenic to humans include processed red meat, alcohol, tobacco, etc. It does not include even a single agrochemical. Contrary to propaganda, Punjab, that has among the highest pesticide usage in the country, is ranked 24th and has among the lowest cancer rates in India. Myth 4. Accidental exposure to pesticide spray drift affects farmers. Pesticides are diluted with water before spraying. The water content would be as high as 99% in the pesticide spray when applied to crops. Accidental short exposure to such pesticide spray drift would not deliver lethal dose to the spraying person. Even exposure to such mild concentrations can be avoided by using complete PPE safety kits and following good agricultural practices. Myth 5. Indian market is full of spurious pesticides. All state governments across the country regularly check and analyze pesticide samples being sold in the market. Over 3.38 lakh pesticide samples have been analyzed across India in the last 5 years alone. Over 98.8% samples were found to be meeting the standards and specifications. Today, Made in India agrochemicals are enabling the Indian farmer to buy top quality agrochemicals at highly competitive prices. Myth 6. Indian water bodies are being polluted due to pesticides. Fish species are highly sensitive to water quality and toxins and cannot survive in polluted water bodies. Contrary to the propaganda about water quality, India is in fact the second largest fish producer in the world today. 2/3 of India's fish production comes from inland sources. If our inland water sources were indeed polluted, large-scale aquaculture is simply not possible. Andhra Pradesh and Punjab have among the highest pesticide consumption in India. Yet Andhra Pradesh has the highest inland fish production, while Punjab has the highest inland fish productivity in the country. Myth 7. Farmers are committing suicide in India. Suicides, whether by farmers or non-farmers, deserve equal attention and understanding. Contrary to the popular perception, 93% of suicides in India are by non-farmers or people not engaged in agriculture. In fact, suicides in urban areas far outnumber those in rural India. Rather, share of farmer suicides have decreased over the last few years from 16% in 2004 to 7% in 2020. Myth 8. India uses pesticides that are banned in other countries. The Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, expressly advises that use of pesticides in every country must depend on climate, crops grown, and occurrence of pests and diseases. Pesticides registration and use, therefore, varies from one country to another. There are many pesticides that are banned in India but are still being used in many leading countries of the world. Due to the constant propaganda by vested interests, India has in fact the least number of registered pesticides among all the leading nations of the world, thus preventing the Indian farmer from accessing the latest chemistries from around the world. Myth 9. Organic or biopesticides are safer than chemical pesticides. All substances used as pesticides, whether organic, bio or synthetic, undergo the same toxicity, safety and efficacy assessments before being allowed for commercial sale. A study by Stanford University, USA, found no evidence for differences in nutritional content between conventional and organic produce. Myth 10. Made in India pesticides do not meet global quality standards. In 2021, Indian manufacturers exported Made in India agrochemicals worth over Rs 30,000 crores to over 130 countries across the globe. Indian manufacturers produce quality which is in fact superior than many imported products in terms of purity profile and efficacy. The price is not only competitive globally, but lower by 50 to 70% once produced indigenously. As we have seen, there is a vested economic interest behind each of the myths about Indian commodities and agrochemicals that have been cultivated over decades. Invariably, such propaganda against specific Indian commodities is directly linked to their growth in production and rise in exports. It's therefore important that we see through such propaganda and have faith in the efforts of the Indian farmer and the industry in their Herculean effort to make India the #1 agri-powerhouse of the world.
Gentlemen, when you go home today, just think about this. Let's not be carried away by what we see and what we do, but this is something which is authentic, genuine, and would definitely be backed by a lot of data. So my request would be to see that at any forum that you go around, please see that these figures are quoted and we are not misquoted anywhere else. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Indian Chemical News for the support given.